Okay, what you're looking at is two individual copper rods, pieces of wire. They're both insulated from each other. And I'm trying to see if the Lord Kelvins will spark across between them with the gap. If you notice, I've got the gap on either side of them. It's just too far for it to... Well, there it went. I didn't see what it did. I'll have to look back at the film. I kind of pushed it in close to it. A lot of fray. I can make it spark if I push it in a little. A lot of fray. And I can see it from back here. It's going around. Now it's going through them. Into the first one, into the second one, across. I'm hoping the camera's picking this up pretty good. Looks like it's out of focus again. I don't know why it doesn't focus real well. Why does it? Focus real well. Okay, here's a snapshot of that spark on the two large wires. Notice it comes in on one side, bridges across the tops, and then across the top of the other one into the other electrode. Pretty cool. Yeah, it's sparking, as you can see. Kind of a different effect. Yeah, it's sparking. Here's another snapshot of those same wires, but they're sticking up higher, and you can see it goes in one side, energizes that wire across the top, and out the other side into the other electrode. Okay, what you're looking at is a smaller wires, much smaller gauge, and they're both individuals. They're not connected. And you see what's happening. It pulls it in, bounces, then sparks. Very wild. So they're independent of each other. They're independently isolated, insulated from each other and from the electrodes. And I'm not breathing on it or touching it. You just see what's happening. Pulls one in, and then pow. Very wild. So they are insulated from each other. I went to a smaller gauge wire, and it's working much better than the bigger gauge. So it's pretty wild. Check it out. I could bend them and be more like a Jacob's ladder, you know. It would probably be reversed, though. If I put them towards each other at the top, it would definitely shoot across the top. It's basically what I have now. They're a little wider gapped at the bottom than the top. This wire is very hard to maintain it straight when you bend it with your fingers. Oh, look at that. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Okay, here's a snapshot of that one arc, and it's wild how it shot across both sides down low before the other one went up to the top. And then the other one up the top was later. So that's pretty wild. Maybe it came from both sides, you know, outward and then went up. Pretty wild on that one. This snapshot is one where it went straight across. It did envelop both wires when it did this. This is the only one I got that actually did it like this. I haven't seen it do this before or since. And this is just a regular shot of how it normally sparks. All three at the same time. All three gaps are illuminated or are conducting at the same time in different locations. Okay, this is another run with two individual wires which are independently insulated from each other. They're just sticking up there. And I want you to see what happens as the charge. See how it vibrates them? I'm not breathing on it, I'm not doing anything. So we're getting electromagnetic fields or currents going through there that are below visible light. You can say it's positive or negative ions, but it's just a field. It's just like light. It's going one way across there. Just like my voltmeter showed, just like my little other meters showed it. I had it on the jars. It's just moving across there, and it'll move the wires before you even see any light. And it might be infrared, there you go, microwave or whatever. See it? It moved. But the capacitance wasn't high enough to create visible light. The acceleration across there was not high enough to create visible light. Depending on which inductor had enough droplets going past it to create enough capacitance to make that shift happen from one side to the other. But once it gets capacitated high enough, you get visible light. The acceleration has to be high enough. Capacitance, acceleration. It's gravity, people. It's gravity. It's not positive and negative ions in the sense of what's causing this. Positive and negative ions are the byproduct. They're the after effect. I'm telling you. Anyway, I'm trying to prove it with this. This is better focused than the last one. I left the last one in because you could see more of it with it out of focus. This is very much in focus. I may not get as many because of the humidity today, but you see what it's doing. See that happening? I'm not touching it. I'm not near it, not breathing on it, nothing. It's capacitance of acceleration of gravity. And when it needs to balance itself out, whatever it needs, if it's not up to the point of ionization to visible light, it does it below that. We just can't see it or hear it because it's not breaking the visible light barrier or the audible sound barrier. It does it before it needs to break that barrier. The speed of acceleration, the amount of acceleration of gravity. And I'm running a little low on water, but you see that. Look, they're moving. I'm not touching them. It balances itself out, but we didn't have light, right? Didn't need it. The two independent rods here accepted enough to transfer between them as they capacitated themselves, whichever side, however much. When it transferred over, it wasn't enough to breach the visible light threshold. That's all the difference is. And I'm running low on water, but you see what's happening. And I know I'll be ridiculed and so forth and so on about ions, but that's what it is, accelerated gravity. There's another one. Very cool. Very cool indeed. Indeed, indeed. And I think I'm about out of water. I may not get any more. And if you notice on this run, I put the top wider than the bottom, or, you know, it's got an H kind of thing where the middles are the closest. Right between the electrodes are pretty well the closest the wires are to each other. I'm out of water. I hope you enjoyed that. Very cool indeed. Charge. Yeah, vibrates them. I'm not breathing on, I'm not doing anything. enjoyed that. Very cool indeed.